My name's Bill and I'm an alcoholic, and this share is called Children and Alcohol. My whole life, since the day I was born, has been moulded and guided by alcohol. Well, my dad is an alcoholic and my granddad's an alcoholic, so both sides of my family had alcoholism in them. But I've got 9 brothers and sisters who are not alcoholics. We talk about the time in Alcoholics Anonymous about when we cross that magic line from drinking normally to being an alcoholic. And I know exactly when that happened for me. I didn't know it then, but it was with my first drink, and it was between the time I picked up the glass and I took my first drink. And from that first drink, I know today that I had the disease of alcoholism, because putting bluntly, the disease of alcoholism is just an unusual reaction to alcohol. And what I drank were the dregs of some beer that my brother had made. And anybody who drinks the dregs knows that you will spit them out because they taste vile. But I had an unusual reaction to that drink, and it wasn't about what it tasted like, it's about what it did to me. And it did something to me that night that was euphoric. It was magical. It was some kind of an out-of-body experience, where all my life up until then, I had alcoholism in my head, but now I had the alcohol in my stomach. And the alcoholism in my head was this, that I suffered from major fear about anything and everything. I had ungrounded and unfounded fear. I feared about what you thought about me and what you didn't think about me. I feared about criticism and public humiliation, probably above all else in my life. I feared about losing what I had, and I feared about not getting what I wanted. I feared about asking people things in case they laughed at me. And I couldn't tell anybody what was going on in my head, because I knew somehow, somewhere, that I was slightly different to the rest of the world. Until I took that drink. And apparently, according to my sister, I danced all night with a cardboard box on top of my head. And the freedom that alcohol gave me was complete. It was utter. And it was 100%. And you know, I didn't have a drink probably for many years after that. But probably around 13, I would think that I had another drink. And it did exactly the same to me. And I got drunk. And that was really the start of a journey that took me to places, took me to situations, to people's houses. I mixed with people that I just shouldn't have mixed with. And when I look at my grandchildren today at 13 and 14 years old and think about what I was doing at their age, I seriously worry about myself and what can happen to me when I drink. Because the thing is, I put myself in situations that anything could have happened to me, and actually most things did happen to me. And the trouble is, a lot of things, I don't know whether they happened to me or not, but I was completely led and driven by where I could get enough alcohol to get drunk that night. Where my friends would go down the park, sit in a circle, and pass a flagon round or a can round or whatever they had, between 6 or 8 of them, and have a swig each and all get giggly and have a good chat. That wouldn't have been any good for me. And by 13 and 14, I was out drinking every night with men, with people that were much older than me, and they were plying me with enough drink and drugs to make me incapable of looking after myself. It was horrendous. And you know, when I look back, I thought a lot of those men were my friends, would look after me, but not one person ever said, you know, this boy needs help. And if I saw a boy of that age drinking in clubs and pubs and a lot of gay bars, drinking like I did, I would probably say that I needed some kind of help, and maybe I would go and have a word with a boy that was like me, but nobody ever did. Because the trouble is, I had a big invisible sign on me that says, do not criticise. If you upset me, I'll just go and drink somewhere else. Get very angry with you, get resentful, and that's how I kept everybody away. And that's really alcoholism at its best. I'm doing something to myself that was crazy. I don't want to hear the truth, because alcohol had total and utter power over me. I remember going out shopping. I was about 17 or 18, and I remember getting £80 out of the bank, which today could have been the equivalent of 500-600 quid. I don't remember. But I went in for a drink. I remember the pub in the centre of Bristol, and I never did go shopping. And I spent everything. How I spent that much, I don't know. But I spent everything, and I never bought one Christmas present that day. And I had the most horrendous crash on the way home, where I hit probably 30 or 40 parked cars. Thank God I didn't kill anybody, but I could have done, and if I did, I wouldn't have known about it. And I was caught many, many years later. And that was my drinking. And I feel quite sorry now that I was put in many situations, that I put myself in those situations. But nobody stood up, and people who I really did think were friends never ever did anything to protect me, except to feed me more drink. And then I got in with some boys that, I don't know, I worship those guys because they were members of the biggest bikers club in the world. They were big men. They probably were only 21, 22. They might have been 25 at the time, but I don't think they were that old. But they were big and tattooed, and yeah. And I got in with them, and we used to go playing chicken, which involved going out in cars at 3 or 4 in the morning, completely out of my face, and just driving along, and if there was anything coming the other way, you would pull over onto the other side of the road and put your foot down, and you never chickened out. And I remember just being in hysterics when we did that. But today, I would seriously question whether I would ever come home alive or not. But it never entered my head, because even as a kid, when I drank, my morals and fears and any concern for my own safety just went out the window. And these are only the things that I remember. And I went to many parties and woke up in many strange houses, and it was pretty dreadful. And alcohol took over my life. It took away any chance of having an education. I left school with nothing. But what I did have was a determination and a will of iron. And they say that only strong-willed people become alcoholics, and only stronger-willed people get sober. And you know what? I must have had the will of iron to survive active alcoholism, and I've also survived 26 years of sobriety. Bill the Shirt, Bristol.